Welcome to our first online supporters event since March. Earlier on in the chat, we were just reminiscing about our last 100 Club event, which was in Sovereign House on South Parade in Leeds, and it was just before lockdown, and it does now feel like that. Yeah, that really strange moment just before all of our worlds changed. It was a fantastic evening and a really great event, but actually just maybe part of a world that we're not going to see for a little while. So thank you for joining us on this new venture, this Zoom event. Thank you for your patience with our first foray into it. We haven't quite worked out all the bells and whistles, and there are probably things that we'll learn for next time from doing this. So any thoughts or suggestions, please share with us, because we'd love to try and make this a really engaging and exciting and interesting experience for everybody, just until we can all get back together in the room. So my first point is, if you wouldn't mind, could everybody please mute themselves when they're not speaking? It's simply that will minimize background noise and hopefully maximize people's bandwidth for when they do need to speak, but also for their reception. If you don't know how to mute yourself, I think Rachel will try and help you out. Is that right, Rachel? That's great. In terms of housekeeping, I don't really have to sign anyone to emergency exits or anything like that this time, but obviously there is that mute thing. Clearly we're all listening, and I recognise that this isn't the most ideal way of having the kind of interaction we love to have at our supporters events. So certainly something that we're hoping to explore for next time is a way where we can be a little bit more interactive. But what we do have with Zoom is the chat facility. Some of you have found it already, which is great. But down at the bottom of your screen, if you move your cursor right down to the bottom of the screen, it comes up with some instructions, some options, and there is a sort of speech bubble, and under it says chat, and if you want to press that and use the chat button, it means that you know, if you want to raise a question or ask how to do something or make a suggestion, Rachel's going to be moderating that throughout our conversation, so we'll pick up anything that you do put in chat. Second point is, if you look at the top left hand of the screen, you'll see we are recording this session. I know we alerted you beforehand to let you know, but I'm just reminding you now, we are recording this session just so that it's useful for our own reference to see how it goes, and you know, maybe there'll be some really good stuff we can edit through and use in various social ways. But if anybody does have a problem with being recorded, I think it was pointed out beforehand, if you put yourself on, turn your video off, then you're just a name, or rather than being photographed. So that's absolutely your call. So without further ado, I would love us to get started into the main event. I'm really delighted. We've got a couple of well, three really exciting bits of speaking input we have this morning. So without further ado, I'm going to ask my colleague Steph to join us. She's come to us just before lockdown. We were blessed. So Steph joined us from CAF, from the Charities Aid Foundation, and her experience there and in quite a range of other charities has really been brought to bear instantly as lockdown kicked in March. I think it was 2 weeks you were with us in the office, Steph, before we all had to go into home working. So a really a baptism of fire for Steph. But she's absolutely smashed it out the park in terms of delivery, and she's worked really hard, as have all of the team, to ensure that we could respond appropriately to the emergency situation that we were all facing. And so I'm delighted she's going to talk us through what we've been doing over the last 4 months. Thanks, Steph.
Thank you, Kate. What an amazing group of people, and so nice to see so many new faces today. As Kate said, I started 2 weeks into lockdown, so I was at the 100 Club event, met a few people there, but yeah, what a time to start. And as has been the case for all of us, you know, many of the plans that I came here with went straight out of the window in those first few weeks and beyond. And you know, we can't talk about where we are today without discussing COVID-19, which has brought huge risks both to communities across Leeds and the charitable organisations that serve them. So for us as a funder, a fundraiser and a partner, we felt that we really needed to act in that time. So a huge amount of the team's focus has been on making sure that we can move resources, whether they're from national funds or our 100 Club members or other donors or the public actually, to where they need to get as efficiently as possible. And to give you a sense of the scale of that, across Leeds, Bradford and Wakefield since the start of COVID-19, we've leveraged £3.5 million and we've distributed £500,000 of that to more than 60 organisations within the first 3 weeks of lockdown, with a lot more flowing steadily since then. And you know, it was really important to us at that time to think about that funding going out to communities where it was needed in the short term, but also that a short-term response is only the start of the story, really. And I've been reflecting on the fact that, you know, the virus poses a threat to public health, and that threat, while now reduced, is by no means eliminated, but actually the economic impact of the lockdown is one of the really important things that we can focus on as a community foundation as well. Early indications are that West Yorkshire will be hit really hard, and for example, last month the number of people claiming universal credit across Leeds city region increased by 62%, which, to use the word that we use for all sorts of things now, was unprecedented. And as the furlough scheme winds down, that will only become worse. And if we look at what's happening with the voluntary sector, Third Sector Leeds, a partnership that we're part of, has found that 3 in 5 charitable organisations feel that they may not survive for longer than 6 months because of the current situation. And very few of those organisations used the furlough scheme because, of course, at the time it was available, their support was really needed by all of us in the community. And small organisations and those dependent on traded income are particularly vulnerable. So from the start, we wanted to work on the basis that the path through COVID-19 would be long and precarious, and that we needed to really think about supporting charitable organisations for the long term. And our close relationship with grassroots organisations is what has allowed us to channel funds directly to the front line in ways that lots of other funders haven't, which we've been really grateful to be able to do, and really grateful that Ali and Emma will talk about some of their experiences today receiving the funding. So on the next phase of what we've been doing is continuing to focus on resilience, and that's essentially, you know, it's a word that's used a lot, but what we mean by that is the long-term viability of the sector across Leeds. So we've learned from conversations we've had with organisations that have received our funding, that we really need to focus on both urgent gaps in cash flow that are there for organisations, but also longer term planning and development to actually cover the costs of adapting operating and funding models to survive in the future. And we're actively encouraging groups to spend money on management time and on adapting to the new normal. We also felt it was really important to fund those that were not necessarily best at writing application forms and not necessarily those who got their application together quickest. So we worked with an advisory group from other funders, from services across the city and from the community to build a portfolio of grants that will support groups who are representative of all aspects of our great city. So we've made awards to a wide range of organisations through our Resilience Fund, and they include organisations supporting people with mental health issues, with long-term conditions, with physical and learning disabilities, and they include organisations supporting adults with multiple and complex needs, people on benefits and low income, people who are isolated and lonely, including older people, people at risk of suicide, children who are under 4 and expectant mothers, young people who are particularly affected by the economic crisis and the chance of getting into employment, families on child protection plans, refugee and asylum seekers, and local families and residents experiencing poverty in some of the most deprived neighbourhoods in Leeds. So a huge range of awards made there, and those organisations are providing valuable support in lots of different ways as well to reduce inequalities. So they might be providing art and creative activity, they might be providing transport to connect older people up to services or to use the internet in different ways. There might be social opportunities online for those who are isolated, providing food, essential items, practical help, employment opportunities. The list goes on and on and on in terms of how organisations are adapting and being creative to respond to the need out there. And it really is adapting. It's very rare that I speak to an organisation who's doing exactly what they were doing before the crisis, and that takes ingenuity and creativity, but it also takes money. And so thanks to the generous support from many of you and others, we're starting to get some really fantastic feedback about the Resilience Fund and what it's been able to achieve. So just to give you a sense from the first round of grants that we've given out of that, 100% of organisations from the first round believe that they will have been helped to respond to the impact of the lockdown and be in a better position to resume their activity as it was, or to fulfil their charitable aims in a completely different way post-COVID. And 78% of those organisations said they felt they would be able to keep running, with some of them confident that they could survive in the longer term because of this funding. And we're going to be keeping a close eye on that and speaking to organisations, making sure that we understand what's happening and that we can adapt and respond with our funding to bring to life what organisations need. And I just wanted to share with you one of the comments that's come through to us from groups, and there are many more like this, but one of our organisations has said that covering our staff costs for day-to-day delivery is giving our project manager the space and time to apply for funding once the emergency support lessens, without drawing on our 3 months reserves and potentially making us have to close down before new income streams are more certain. And it really is quite unusual in the funding sector for organisations to have funding that is about organisational development and thinking and management time rather than only project delivery. So we're very keen as an organisation to make sure that we learn from the way that we've been doing things through the Resilience Fund. We know that groups have really appreciated us taking the time to build relationships with them ahead of application stage, and we want to find ways to continue to do this and really build on the strong relationships that we have as a community foundation across the city with groups. And we're seeing the funding round that we're completing as a pilot to inform our Leeds Fund grants as we move forward. So they will be focusing on long-term funding for core costs and for linking groups in with some of the business support that they need to continue adapting. So please watch this space for more ways that you can get involved in that as things move forward for us as well. And just a huge thank you to everybody on the call for their support.
Thank you so much, Steph. That's really helpful. Just to say, you know, if people do have particular questions, because I know that inevitably these things have to go by at a bit of a lick, but if you've got particular questions or missed anything, I'm sure you know, either privately or pick up afterwards, Steph will be really happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Very happy, yeah.
That's brilliant. Just in terms of our response, I also, before I introduce our next speaker, I just want to highlight something that we felt it was really important to do over the course of this past few months, and that's actually to make a statement about Black Lives Matters. Rachel, I think you're going to put a link to the statement that we made, just so that people are aware of it. I think it's fair to say most of you will know what a fundamental principle opportunity for all is to us, and clearly
the effects of racism will prevent people getting opportunity that they need and deserve in order to thrive. So we felt it was really important that we stood shoulder to shoulder beside our Black communities at this time, and demonstrate that we are looking to review, to reflect, and take action to eradicate racism and to minimise or get away from any barriers to opportunity. So just wanted to flag that up. So it's my real pleasure now to introduce Emma. Emma's from the Christchurch Armley Meeting Point. I believe the Meeting Point's been going at, it's about 2003, I think. It's a very long-standing and extremely successful programme, which we've been delighted to partner with, you know, over the years, and really pleased that we were able to support in terms of the Resilience Fund in order to make sure that Emma and her team were able to keep working with the groups and individuals that they have been supporting so well. So Emma, can I pass on to you?
Thanks, Kate. Hi everybody. My biggest Zoom meeting yet, I have to say. So yeah, I'm from Meeting Point. I've been there for about nearly 10 years now. And we are a small, very small frontline charity based over in Armley. And we work with refugees and asylum seekers. So individuals from all stages of the asylum process, we welcome to our project. And there's only 3 of us that work there part-time. And then we rely on a team of about 45 volunteers. Pre-COVID, we ran a very large social drop-in, which saw over 100 people attend each week. We also ran English classes and a women's group trips, very much a sort of social project based on community and family feel and bringing people together, which of course we've had to change given the current situation. Given the fact that so much of our work is based on social activities and that's so important for our clients, we did feel that we needed to continue operating in that respect in some way that was, so we were meeting the client's needs as well as sort of meeting public health requirements. So lots of risk assessments and frantic meetings took place at the beginning. And the Resilience Fund sort of came quite early on in lockdown. I think it was beginning of April that I was contacted. And it very much sort of offered some immediate financial relief to us. So it enabled us to stay open in a way that we didn't have to worry about finances in as much as perhaps we would have done. And it's enabled us to continue supporting our clients throughout. We've been open every week, every Monday since the start. Just to sort of focus on our beneficiaries a little bit, I think it's important to remember that whilst we're all going through lockdown and everybody's experiencing the pandemic, the majority of our beneficiaries all started it already at a disadvantage and already marginalised in society. And so whilst we're all going through it, we had different starting points. And the fact that most of them were reliant on charities such as ours to meet sort of basic and practical and emotional needs, I think is important to remember. I feel like COVID has exacerbated existing issues such as poverty, isolation, destitution, but it's also created new ones. People have been stuck in between systems, in between appointments, there's been delays in applications. It's only served to increase existing anxieties. And whilst, you know, refugee groups are inherently quite resilient in themselves, I think this sort of lockdown period has triggered some past trauma in terms of that feeling of being shut in and locked down. and I think the long-term effects of that we're yet to see. I think just in terms of what we have been doing, how we've been operating, we have continued to provide food parcels, fresh food, which we get donated from supermarkets and through Fair Share and things. Takeaway hot meal, we've provided toiletries, activity packs, craft packs for the kids, English classes, and also we've provided a sort of level of reassurance and emotional support at such an uncertain time. I think it's been really important to have a level of continuity and certainty during this period for people. We've obviously been doing all this on a very, very reduced team, only sort of 5 people maximum in the building. So it's been quite a lot of pressure on staff, but it's been good to be able to still provide a face-to-face service, and we've done a sort of safe, socially distanced distribution of items from the church, and for those that have been unable to attend, we've been doing a delivery service. Each week now, I mean, last Monday just gone, we did almost 100 food parcels that fed almost 200 people. And the deliveries are averaging of about 50 a week across Leeds. And we're hoping as things open up a little bit to reduce that and encourage people to attend in person. The issues that our clients face won't disappear when the pandemic ends. And I know that's the same for a lot of us. But I think because some of theirs will be exacerbated, I think it's going to be even more important for sort of frontline third sector organisations to continue running, to provide support going forward. And I think just to summarise what this funding has enabled us to do, the Resilience Fund, it will help us sustain our work beyond COVID. So it will enable us to have the financial security over the current months, so that we haven't had to reach into some of our unrestricted reserves to keep on going. And because some of our current funding is very much based around our social group work, we haven't been able to use that because the group work has been suspended. So it's offered that security now, which will then continue into the future. I think also there is a bit of a fear that once the pandemic is over, there's going to be much less funding available for the charity sector going forward. And yeah, our clients' needs will continue and possibly worsen. And I think that's the anxiety, sort of next financial year. And we want to be able to ensure sort of long-term support and sustainability for our clients going into next year. And certainly the significant funding from you guys has really helped. So thank you.
Emma, that's really great. Thank you so much for giving us a flavour and really sort of bringing it to life, exactly what it's, what you've been doing, and that kind of day to day over the course of the last few months. Again, I'm sure if people had particular questions that they wanted to raise with you, say offline, I'm sure you'd be happy for us to forward any questions to you, Emma, so that people have a chance to ask further if they would so like. Thank you. As I say, this is the weird part about this experience, is that we don't get a chance to do the interaction bit, which is obviously so valuable at our 100 clubs. But we'll find a way. We'll find a way to make it happen. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Ali actually to speak to us next. Ali's joining us from the Leeds Refugee Forum, and again, a really well-established and excellent organisation that's been working with refugees. It's refugee-led, and I know Ali's going to explain the details on that. But I think you've also had a bit of a resilience fund injection of cash, which I hope's been useful. Ali, thanks. Over to you.
Thank you so much for having me today to talk about the health you offer and our organization. My name is Ali Mahgoub, and I'm a director for Leeds Refugee Forum. Leeds Refugee Forum is a refugee-led organization. It's formed in 2003 and registered charity and company limited by grantee. The forum came up as an idea from these refugees leaders as a work that can be done to support their own organizations. So we started in 2003, as I said, and we start building up things on what they start as organizations, refugee community organizations. And we work in two ways. We start supporting these organizations, other organizations, to empower them, doing some training for them on governance issues, financial management, running activities, supporting the members. And at the same time, we force with a big pressure of individuals. They need the practical support. So we support these groups as organizations and as individuals, from the refugees, asylum seekers, destitute asylum seekers. So we do ESOL classes, and we do also advocacy support, support women's and youth groups and children on the schools. So we work 7 days because we work Monday to Friday, full days supporting these activities. And on weekends, also we give the venue as a place for these communities to come and running their activities for their own groups, socializing events, meetings, organizing activities, and at the same time, they link with the support that we offer and the sessions that we offer for them. And since 2003, we do the work in different areas, but from 2006, we had a center. It's offered by the council at that time. And since then, we continue supporting this group in Lincoln Green area, but we work across the city for all the groups. You know, the refugees and asylum seekers, they have different difficulties and main things that how to be integrated in the community, and they're facing a lot of barriers. The English or the language is a big barrier and a key for all the services that we offer. So we do the work jointly with these communities because of those the right people to support their people, and they know different problems and how they can be the bridge for integrating these people. For those people that already have the language and integrated themselves, and how they can support these people. So we do a lot of activities during that concept, and we try always to link them with other organizations. Across the city, as you may know, we do joint projects with different organizations. We are leading also now Leeds Migration Partnership of Operation Group, and we start this work since 2008. And we bring all the organizations, the offering support for the refugees and asylum seekers, to come together on talking about different issues facing the sector and facing the service that we can offer other collaborative projects together. So we're talking about the gaps, we're talking about the funds, the new services, the new needs in the area. So I think they're working very well. Still, they're offering this support. Also, in terms of joining and doing the work together, we're also supporting the Refugee Week as a positive contribution from these communities to working together. And also, we're running the Hardship Fund. And this is a special fund getting some donations from other organizations and individuals to support destitute asylum seekers with no support at all. but we're running especially in the winter time, and we offer some money to support those that haven't got any support from the government, from any other institution or organization. So in terms of the support that we got from Leeds Community Foundation, I think we got a lot of support, and we start our journey with Leeds Community Foundations since 2008. We got a small portion of money for different small projects, but I think it's very appreciated and very helpful for us. In terms of the Resilience Fund, we were really stuck in March, April, because this is the end of our financial year. And we also thinking about how we can survive and continue our work. All the projects we used to run through the One Community Center, and people scared about the pandemic and the stuff. So they stopped coming, and we know those people already are isolated, but different aspect, but we need to shift our work and how we can support them. So we found ourselves in a situation, we don't have enough money to run the activities. People, they stop coming to us. We're a small group. We have 5 people as a staff. 1 person is full-time and 4 people is part-time. And we used to have about 80 volunteers running the work. Most of this stopped because people that are scared about what the situation is and hesitant how they can support the people. So we start doing a lot of conversations in the area. We start doing a lot of conversation with our people, how we can keep them connected, how we can find out the needs, the actual needs for these people. So we start calling them regularly during the week, and we start find out how they can get their support and how we can empower these community leaders and the volunteers that used to do the volunteer work with us from these different communities, and how we can link them with other agencies that are offering some services for these people. So I think we have been successful in doing that partially by the support of the Resilience Fund. So what we have done, we keep all these people connected. We got some equipment for how they can keep them connected with us. And that's done for the community leaders and done for the service users that used to be connected with us. So the areas we are working, we're working with concentrating on the children, stuff from the schools and women groups, and that is what we think is more isolated, single mothers and elderly people. So we connect these community leaders with these people, and we ask them to offer some support for them and feed us back on how we can do more support for these people and keep them connected and sort out their problems. So we buy some phones, dongles for keeping them connected, and we have a Zoom subscription for doing educational support for these children. So we use Zoom now, and also we got a bit of time, get people to use for how they can use this. And we keep ourselves connected to the other agencies that they may offer some online stuff and how we can train these people to do that. So we keep some families as connected with using this one with children, and at the same time, we put those community leaders, they speak the same language, and we keep them connected and informed with all the information sent by our organizations. This migration partnership also, they also raised and provided some stuff and information in different languages. But sometimes reading the languages, accessing the internet is a problem. So we ask these people also just to do interpreting or talking about the main points in this information, how that can be connected. So other people also, they don't know how to access the services. Fortunately, we advocate this and link them with other agencies, they support them. People that lost some jobs, we are also connected to the job center through the other projects we used to work with. And unfortunately, also some of this work and these services stopped during this period. But we try to come over with different reasons, and we do some ways to support these people. So we try to advocate and we try to bring them with other people, just helping them online to fill some applications, getting some access to universal credit. And also for the elderly people, we work with other organizations offering this. Leeds City Council also offers some volunteers to support people with delivering some medicines, with delivering some passes. And also we kept ourselves connected with other organizations. We provide some food parcels, and also we try to ask them to go to some agency that offer these food parcels. But still, I think we need to do some work, more work, on how to get these people used to do this remotely service, and how they can come up or how they can resolve these problems for these communities. Now we think we are in a position, we kept our, because for the Resilient Fund, we kept our 4 social workers doing the work for the women groups, for the youth group, for the children homework club, and for the elderly people. And we start also doing some ESO classes through the Zoom, and all the people, we got a good feedback from them, the feeling a bit unisolated when they saw people through the Zoom, talking to them, sorting out some problems, going with them from 1, 2, 3 steps, how they can do that, getting some calls from other agencies to try to support them, especially if those who are struggling or facing domestic violence. And we keep them connected and very supportive, and are really now in a sustainable situation. So I think I have to say thank you so much for Leeds Community Foundation for supporting us and feeling what we feel, and how those people we serve them, they feel to be confident and be sustainable for doing things with the communities and members. Thank you so much.
Ali, thank you so much. Thank you. That's really helpful to get a proper flavour of exactly what it is that you're facing, and what some of the groups and individuals you're working with, what they're facing. I think it's really again, I'm hoping it's okay to say, Ali, that if there are any questions that people have got, if we can pass them on to you, that would be great. Thank you. I think it's fair to say that, you know, this pandemic has done the absolute the absolute classic worst case scenario for communities. There's no question about it. You know, I think what you've heard from Emma and Ali is echoed in what Steph said, in terms of that massive rise in demand, in terms of what the groups such as those we've heard from today are facing. What the massive upsurge in demand with the complete drop-off in terms of supply. And so that's why it's been so important for us to work closely with national funders, but also with regional funders. And I'm really grateful that there are a couple on the call today of those regional and local funders who wouldn't normally work with us directly, but have been incredibly flexible and supportive during this time. Genuinely appreciate that kind of collegiate working, and I think it's a real testimony to our region, to our sector, that actually we're able to do that at such speed. And you know, so that's a real positive. But I think in terms of what Emma was saying earlier around the insecurity and worry about the future, that sort of perfect storm is facing us, in that, you know, we've got organisations who are their staff are furloughed, so they've got a limited ability to respond to demand. Local authorities are facing their own challenges, as are the wider public sector. Businesses are trying desperately to survive, and it's really important for all of society that business does survive and thrives, and we get the economy back into action. But obviously, for those community groups that have taken measures themselves to try and raise their own income and diversify their income portfolio, it's been absolutely catastrophic, in that things such as their trading income have just closed down, and the ability to fundraise has disappeared. So it is a bit of a bleak picture and a worry going forward, but all we can do is take those steps together that we've been doing over the last 4 months. And I think what we'd like to do is actually just share something which is coming up, which is a short video, and it is very short, I'm reassured by Rachel, which is a celebration of some of the work that we've been able to support through the Healthy Holidays programme. Now, the Healthy Holidays programme will be familiar to most of you. We've been running it for several years now, and it's a marvellous piece of work, which is again bringing together a whole range of donors and funders alongside each other, and channeling it into this Healthy Holidays programme, which was designed to work across school holidays. Sorry, Rachel, I'm not quite there, nearly. So it was designed to work across school holidays, but actually for the lockdown, we realised we needed to start earlier. So this year we've been working with groups right from March in order to make sure that there was support for families that would otherwise be dependent on free school meals, and that's been very important and a lifeline. I think it's well over £500,000 has been invested pre the summer holidays, and now £1 million programme which is supported by the Department for Education, which is running forward over the next couple of months, basically to try and support healthy activity and access to food for a range of our most vulnerable families. But just as Ali was explaining, it's also that important mental health lifeline, that boost of confidence, that the building of friendships and trust. And I think that's really well exemplified in the video we're about to see. So thank you, Rachel.
My name's Chrissy. We are in Bramley at the moment, and we're here to do Garden Movers. So work in partnership with Dazzle Dance, and we've come together to work with them because at the moment young people and children are locked down, and we are aware that it's affecting mental health, and they're not getting out. So we've put this into practice, and we're moving around the Bramley area. The response has been absolutely amazing. This street that we're in today has actually been requested. So we've been to like 5 different locations so far. So this one is a request from a lot of people in the area. So hopefully we'll get more requests.
So as you probably see from the videos, everybody's spaced out, getting some exercise, doing some fun, and just kind of getting that community spirit going in lockdown.
It's important for them to do it because they're still socialising even though they're locked down. And it's fun for kids. And they just love it. Absolutely love it.
Hopefully that's given a little flavour of one of the amazing projects that's been able to keep going during lockdown, and clearly that's going to be something we need to build on and develop in future months. So coming up to a conclusion now. First of all, as I mentioned before, I really want to thank the flexibility of our supporters. It's the kind of flexibility and preparedness to repurpose some of the funds that they'd already committed to us, that that has allowed us to be able to respond so quickly, alongside the tremendous effort of the staff team at the foundation. I can't thank them enough for their tireless work on that, and of course the tireless work that's been happening in community organisations all across the city and across the Bradford district as well. I particularly want to thank Max and Claire and the SWECO team for continuing to sponsor us in terms of our 100 clubs. Thank you so much for your flexibility and your preparedness to stand beside us at this time. As you'll realise, we're also a charity, and actually in terms of our flexibility and our ability to look to our own long-term sustainability, I just can't thank enough all of you who have been prepared to stay with us and stand beside us at this time. Clearly what we've had to do is get our heads down and deliver in terms of getting money in, but also straight out through the door and into the use of the communities that we serve. And so that's meant that we have been rather blinkered in terms of getting that activity underway. But that doesn't mean to say we're not incredibly grateful to our supporters, and we do notice and we know, and it's such a reassurance to know that you are there and that you're there for us at this particular time. It's incredibly humbling how generous and how thoughtful people have been in reaching out and supporting us at this time. So thank you so much. Thank you also for attending today. Our experiment, I think, is seems to be working so far, but in terms of the next steps, it would be really good, as I said, to hear from everybody, or anybody who's got some suggestions about how to improve or work with this more. Laura's just reminded me there's a longer version of the Dazzle video if people are interested, which we can circulate later. So there's various bits and pieces that we can add on using the technology, but of course nothing quite replaces actually being able to see you in the flesh and being out and about together. So hopefully we will get to that point where we can actually get together before too long, but I think at the moment we're not making any specific plans in that direction. That has brought me to the end of my briefing, so I wondered if it might be nice just to unmute and say hi and bye and wish everyone a really lovely day. I feel like I've done an awful lot of talking, and it would be lovely just to hear other people's voices.